Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really, really central to the future of government work.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about artificial intelligence.
Specifically, its impact, right?
Yeah.
For you, our listener, working in the public service here in Canada, we've gone through quite a bit of material.
Especially drawing on insights from a Workday Elevate event. The speakers there really got into how AI is, well, set to transform the public sector.
Focusing on those core areas like HR and finance. Key stuff.
And what really stood out from these sources, is that this isn't just theory. It's not way off in the future.
Right.
They're talking about things happening now or like very soon. Using these sophisticated software tools, they call them AI agents,
AI agent.
to basically rethink how those fundamental admin tasks get done, the ones that, keep government ticking over.
Exactly. And our mission today, well, it's pretty clear. We want to unpack what these AI agents actually are, how the sources think they could reshape government work, and crucially, what does this mean for you, the Canadian public servant?
How might it change your daily work?
And ultimately, how does it affect the citizens you're serving, the people who rely on those government services?
And the framing from the event sources is, I think, really important here. This isn't about AI replacing people.
No, that's key.
The whole analysis points towards using tech, especially AI, to make processes, well, easier,
Yeah.
faster, and to get better insights from all the data government already has.
So the goal is really to maybe lift some of that tedious manual work off your plate.
That's the idea, freeing you up.
So you can finally spend more energy, more time on the, let's say, the strategic stuff, the complex problem solving, the human interactions that really make a difference for Canadians.
Think of them as like powerful assistants working with you.
Co-pilots, maybe? Handling the routine so you can focus on the bigger challenges. Let's dive in and see what the sources show us.
Okay, so one area where the sources see a pretty immediate impact is human resources, HR.
Makes sense. Lots of process there.
Definitely. They describe scenarios where an AI agent could become, well, almost indispensable for an HR manager or a hiring manager.
How so?
Well, take drafting a job description, something you might spend hours on.
Or days. Seriously, pulling requirements, checking consistency, formatting, finding the right templates. It adds up.
Right. It's time-consuming, very detail-oriented. The source suggests an AI agent trained on existing government data, successful past postings, that kind of thing.
Okay.
It could potentially draft a really solid, compliant job description in, like, minutes.
Wow, minutes.
Yeah. And maybe even pull relevant data points, suggest key skills based on the classification, perhaps generate a couple of versions to look at.
So the human manager just picks the best starting point and refines it.
Exactly. Quick review, quick refinement.
Okay, and that's just the start, right? Because then you've got to actually post it.
Mm-hmm. The source suggests the agent could then handle posting it to the various job boards, internal sites, whatever's needed. Once you, the human expert, approve the description, of course.
And then the applications come in. Another bottleneck.
A big one. So the AI agent could potentially ingest those applications, sort through them, and curate like a first-pass list of candidates.
Based on the skills and qualifications you defined.
Precisely. Again, it's not making the hiring decision. That absolutely stays with the humans, the hiring manager, the HR team.
Crucial distinction.
But it's about speeding up that initial screening, that part that often really slows things down.
And that slowness is frustrating, isn't it? Not just for you trying to hire, but think about the citizens applying. Long waits aren't great for anyone.
Totally. The source really stresses the speeds things up without losing human oversight. Your judgment in picking the final pool, making the offer that's still paramount.
Yeah, that human expertise, the nuance, you can't replace that, especially in public service where values matter so much.
Absolutely not. The AI handles the, let's call it administrative heavy lifting, the drafting, data pulling, initial sorting based on objective stuff.
So the real shift, according to the sources, is that HR folks can move away from being buried in admin.
Exactly. Towards more strategic advice, talent strategy, focusing on employee development, helping managers with higher value work.
And that shift in HR, it must have knock-on effects, right? For other public servants, for service delivery.
Huge ripple effect. A more strategic, efficient HR means getting the right people with the right skills into the right roles faster. That directly supports the programs Canadians rely on. It helps build a more agile public service.
Okay, so HR is one big area. Where else did the sources point?
Finance and procurement were also highlighted. Rowan Miranda from Workday, he's their managing director for government and education, he really emphasized how AI can not just add value, but boost compliance.
Compliance, right. Always critical in government
And
finance.
he had this great quote, something like, "The way to encourage compliance is to make things easy."
Oh, I like that. Because navigating government policies, expenses, procurement rules, it can be anything but easy sometimes.
Exactly. So the sources mention AI policy agents. Imagine feeding all those dense policy manuals, the ones nobody really has time to read cover to cover.
Or even search effectively sometimes.
Right, you feed them to an AI agent. Then you, the user, can just ask it a question in plain language.
Like, can I claim this specific travel expense under policy XYZ?
Or what are the procurement rules for a contract this size? And the agent could instantly pull the relevant bits, summarize them, maybe even combine info from different documents into a clear answer, like a superpowered FAQ.
Okay, think of the time saved there. Time you could be spending on actual program work or talking to citizens or analyzing spending impact.
Instead of digging through binders or trying to find stuff on an old intranet site.
Yeah. And making policies easy to find and understand, that directly helps compliance, doesn't it? It reduces accidental errors.
Which is fundamental for public trust, for accountability.
Absolutely. What else in finance? Did Miranda mention contracts?
He did. He talked about AI-based contract intelligence tools. These things can analyze huge numbers of government contracts.
Looking for what? Savings? Risks?
Both, potentially. Opportunities hidden in the jargon, maybe chances to consolidate purchasing, get better pricing when renegotiating, or even spotting unused warranties that could save money.
Wow, finding savings or spotting risks buried in legalese. That turns contract management from just admin into something really strategic.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And they briefly mentioned AI helping with policy analysis too, helping advisors make sense of vast data to understand the potential impact of new policies. Better info for better decisions for Canadians.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. The sources, especially Miranda, connected these specifics back to bigger trends in public management, right? Contrasting with older ideas.
Yeah, he talked about how the focus maybe 20 years ago was on new public management, making government more like a business, sometimes through things like privatization.
Okay, so what's the focus now, according to the sources?
The big shift now is towards improving government from the inside, using its own capabilities better. And technology is seen as, well, fundamental to that.
Not just helpful, but fundamental.
They argued that pretty much every major step forward in modern public management globally has been enabled by IT advances.
That's a strong statement. Tech isn't just an add-on, it's core to how modern government works and improves.
Which means for governments wanting to be more effective, more responsive, like Canada, which the sources noted Workday as active in tech, isn't optional. It's part of the operating model.
Canada is definitely part of this global picture then.
For sure. And within those global trends, a couple really stood out as relevant for you, our listener, and for citizens.
What were they?
First, this huge global push on improving citizen experience CX, making government services more personal, easier to use.
Less bureaucratic, more intuitive. We all want that.
Right, making interactions genuinely helpful. They pointed to places like Singapore and Australia that have really streamlined things online.
And that leads to better outcomes, like people complying more easily.
Yeah, like increased voluntary tax compliance. When it's simple and clear, people are more likely to just do it.
So the question for us here in Canada is, how can AI handling back-end stuff free up frontline staff?
Exactly. Free up their time and, frankly, mental energy to provide better, more empathetic, more helpful interactions with Canadians who need support.
Less time fighting the system, more time helping people. That makes sense.
It absolutely should. If the admin burden is lighter, that energy goes outwards.
Okay, and the second big trend.
A major shift towards a skills-based approach to talent. Hiring, development, planning, focusing on actual skills and competencies, not just degrees or job titles.
That sounds smart, especially with how fast jobs are changing.
It's gaining real momentum. UK, Australia, US, Singapore mentioned.
But doing it across the entire Canadian public service, that sounds incredibly complex.
It is, and the source is clear. It basically requires strong human capital management systems with AI built in.
Why AI?
Because AI can analyze skills data at scale. It allows agencies to, say, find internal people with the right skills for a project, suggest training to fill gaps, support mobility based on what people can do, and plan the workforce based on future skill needs.
So for you, as a public servant, this skills focus powered by AI, it could mean new career paths, mobility based on your actual abilities.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
More about what you can do than just your current job title or degree.
And for government overall, it means using its talent pool much more effectively, matching the right skills to the right problems facing Canadians.
That's the promise, making that matching process much more possible.
Okay, so let's try to wrap up the key takeaways from the sources, particularly Miranda's points.
Right. So, first, innovation in government is happening everywhere,
Right.
globally, not just one place.
Mhm.
Second, tech is absolutely central, foundational even, to making progress.
And third,
Third, AI isn't some distant dream. It's here, it's inevitable, and it's already changing how things work around the world.
and importantly, the sources stressed this is directly relevant for Canada. People like Sarah Cho, Workday's lead in Singapore, talked about their government being proactive with tech.
Yeah, and while Singapore is different, that mindset, the types of tech they're using those are relevant here. Canada faces similar challenges, similar opportunities.
The mention of Workday's presence in Canada just underlines that these aren't theoretical debates. These conversations about AI, modern systems, they're happening now in the Canadian public sector context.
Definitely. These are real opportunities being looked at globally and seen as relevant here. Ways to streamline your work, reduce that admin friction,
And ultimately improve services for citizens.
building on those global themes, better citizen experience, smarter skills-based workforce, with AI as the key enabler.
Okay, so let's bring it right back to you listening. We've talked about how the sources see AI agents potentially handling some of those, let's be honest, often tedious tasks.
Drafting initial job descriptions, sifting applications, making policies searchable, finding insights in contracts.
Tasks that eat up time and mental energy. Energy you could use elsewhere.
For more complex work, strategic thinking, or direct citizen interaction.
Exactly. So here's the final thought, the provocative question maybe. If AI agents start handling more of that routine process work, the drafting, the searching, the initial analysis, what does that free you up to do?
What becomes the most valuable use of your time, your expertise as a public servant?
When those administrative burdens get lighter, what new kinds of impactful, citizen-focused, strategic work can you take on? It's something really worth thinking about as this tech becomes more integrated into how government runs.